Hello, and welcome back to another Brainstream where I explore the future of the computer with you guys. My name is Avram, and I've been working in this industry for over a decade professionally. And in my imagination, it's been since I was in primary school. That's where it all got started. I'm just trying out a new thing with this microphone, so I'm curious to actually hear what it sounds like. But essentially, I've been working on redesigning the operating system, starting at Meta from about 12 years ago, the first commercial glasses, redesigning the entire paradigm of what that looks like to today, helping companies and also developing my own products. These brain streams are essentially just my thoughts, conversations that I've had with people, my ideas on like what this future computer looks like. How are we going to be getting work done? And my area of expertise is around the productivity area. So the future operating system, I don't deal too much with entertainment. So if you're looking for those kind of things, you want to deal with more virtual reality. I deal with augmented reality, the spatial computer, and the operating system, the personal assistant, the AI, the big part that's going to become part of our productivity. When I talk about AI, I'm specifically referring to personal assistants with generative AI actually obviously in there. That's the big buzzword and that's what everybody's interested in, but it's a big part of where I see the future of the computer. Now, the way that I see it is instead of today where you pull out your laptop or you pull out your phone and you open up an app to get started with, I see this more being a conversation. I think a lot more work is going to get done with that conversation with your personal assistant. Now, the screens and everything will be used as feedback and actually manipulating and working through things because vision is an incredibly important part. But I think that we're about to see a huge shift from vision being like 95% of the way that you get work done, right? Staring at a computer screen and the UI, to probably 70-30 with your voice and your eyes. A little bit closer to how that actually works with your natural senses. It's been a long time coming, but we're actually getting a lot closer to this as each day gets by, and the amount of things that we can do with our generative AI, with our LLMs, and what the big companies are building into their operating systems and their devices are phenomenal. It's kind of, some of them are actually mind-blowing. The way that I see this, what intrigues me is the conversational part, because it's kind of like command line interface, like the way that, we had that big jump from CLI to GUI. And now we're having that same thing where like AI or personal assistants are in that command line interface area of like prompting, understanding how to do things, and being able to actually make them productive is what's actually really, really interesting. And where I find the part of the new paradigm to be the most interesting. So I see like the future of the day moving from pulling out your phone when you wake up, or like standing at your desk, sitting at your desk, and opening up a desktop, opening up your laptop, and starting to get work done, to a more natural conversation happening. And now that natural conversation doesn't have to be the start of your day, or it doesn't have to be necessarily conscious. What do I mean by that? Today, when you want to get work done, you're like, okay, I'm sitting now getting work done. It's very conscious. You get into focus, you get into flow. Those are very, very good. I see this movement into this new paradigm as being a lot more natural. And part of that becomes getting work done when you don't even realize you're getting work done. A big part, one of the things that I added into the summary screen just before I released it a few hours, was this idea of like the Siri lock screen. Now, what was this? This was a shift onto the paradigm. It was actually a complete reversal of the way that it works nowadays. Today, when you want to activate, I shall not say her name, because my phone is going to start blinking, or something's going to start happening on my computer. You need to start that today very, very consciously, and it's usually an instruction. I see that completely wrong. I want it to happen in the background, constantly, always ready, always listening, always available. Now, always available, ready to be able to prompt me, remind me, give me something interesting to think about, but also always ready, always waiting, because it's always listening to what's going on around me. Now, you might think, wait, always listening? What about privacy? So, very big thing of what Apple's doing is having everything on device, being very, very private, reducing the need to actually go to the cloud, and having everything locked down on device is imperative. Having a company that's more what it looks like when I when it pauses and coming in. But so privacy is very, very, very important. Where were we? Oh, the next thing is basically understanding that you can also turn it off to privacy. So today we basically, well, you can think of privacy being something more like a focus type of thing. But imagine if you could open up a wallpaper, like on the iPhone, you could have multiple wallpapers. So you don't necessarily have to have your Siri wallpaper on the entire time. Thankfully, nothing happened then. But when you do choose this wallpaper, and I've actually got the wallpaper that I designed on my phone on now, and I'm going to be having it on until I get bored of it, to kind of prompt me and remind me, like, get into this phase of like, or get into this thinking of like, your personal assistant is listening to you the whole time. How would that change? How would you change the way that you operate? How would work change? Very important to think, if I haven't made it clear, privacy mode is something you can flick on. So either something like a focus, or the way I've designed it is like two little eyes. Inspiration is coming from nothing. And kind of the idea is like, if you could just take the eyes and like drag them to the bottom of like the lock screen or things like that, and like the eyelids close, and like that's privacy mode. How that looks visually, I've mocked it up. It could look very, very different, but the idea being that we have those times where we have a private conversation. We might be going to the bathroom. We might just not want anyone to be listening for any other reason. So privacy mode definitely does happen. But what now changes when the default mode is that your personal assistant is always listening? So Apple talked a lot about like the context and looking through your files and figuring things out and understanding from what your screen's looking at, which is interesting because it's close to the teach me mode. But when you move to this world of like your personal assistant always listening, suddenly conversations with people can now go into memory recall. You might have said things that you want to research later. Instead of saying, oh, well, let me check later, those things can start happening in the background while you're having those conversations. Now, the way that I visualize it is kind of like on my lock screen, or maybe my new home screen, would be a bunch of suggestions. Now, I'm in the middle of working on a like design for it, but I'll tell you what's in my mind. Almost like widgets instead of apps, but those widget styles, and I'm talking about like the Apple widget styles, they take the form of suggestions. So they might end up looking like an app or the suggestion. So, for example, if I've said part of a conversation like, oh, yeah, I need to go buy a shirt, that could then be added from the suggestions to a reminder. So maybe the reminder widget, which looks like a reminder widget, comes up and it's got buy a shirt. But the outline is like dotted or something to show me that this is not actually part of the reminders, it's something to be added. Or it's much smarter and opens up that shirt that it knows I'm talking about based on, because I've given it more information, or I've told it what the store I'm interested in. So it might open up Safari and a shopping type of thing. Or maybe I've got that app open, it might actually open up. So it's already actioned and gotten close to saying, okay, we'll put this into your basket, your cart. But it hasn't actually actioned upon that. So essentially, over the day, my home screen or my lock screen becomes, maybe it's not going to get filled up, but like some sort of method of showing you a bunch of suggestions. And now I can have a further conversation going, yeah, I want to continue down that path. So with a shirt, actually, you know what, go buy it. And then the prompt might be, you know, we don't have your wallet, or we need this kind of information. But a lot of those things are starting to live on the phone. So when I continue on with that, it's not necessarily an app that the shopping, that specific store has started, or it's not necessarily an app clip that someone's developed. It's more a bunch of things, a bunch of like your wallet and your shipping and things that are stored on your device come to play, and therefore the actions are tying together a bunch of services on the browser or something like that. Or it might open up, it very well might open up that application. Okay, but think about how much bigger this can be, right? When your phone is always listening, when your personal assistant's always listening, giving you suggestions based on phone calls, based on conversation, or based on just muttering to your device. Like me, when I try remember an idea, I put it into voice notes. So a big part of like the thing that I was talking about, voice notes should have transcription. And I believe they have transcription. this pausing happens. I still really want to see what it looks like. But where was I? The transcriptions. Actually, the mock-up actually that I made looked very similar to what they actually had. I didn't see it in videos, which I'm a bit disappointed. But when you bring these things in, you start tying things. And when you start adding in automations, a personal assistant that's always listening, has context on your phone, knows a lot of things about it, does everything on device, is private, personal, and is constantly giving you suggestions. The way that you get work done completely changes. And remember, this personal assistant is not just like, okay, I'm going to add in something to reminder. This personal assistant can do so many things that we currently didn't think is possible. If you've ever really played around with ChatGPT and see just what it's able to do, think of that, but added to actions. And think of that where it's not just like a sentence or two or a paragraph that you've typed into ChatGPT, but it's your device listening to you all the time. Now you're going to get used to this idea, and you're going to have the power to turn on privacy whenever you want. But what starts, like, just think in your mind, start picturing your day. What starts changing? Think about the way that you work, and just for a second, close your eyes and try imagine adding all these different little pieces together. What does your world start looking like? What does your morning start looking like? What is your... The piece that I was going off on a little bit is, remember that the power of it is also it can start acting as certain individuals or certain professions, right? So the thing that I'm interested, like one of the things I'm interested in over here is like, what if this is your project manager, or, you know, when you work in a company and you start your day with like a sprint, you stand up and you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm... and you're sharing with a team. Think of doing that with a project manager that's helping you get your stuff done. It knows what you're having problems with because you're speaking through it. It's helping guide you. It might be opening, it might be editing these documents. It might be helping you with your flow state. It might be helping you with your music. Like, there's so many different parts of this that come in that are almost impossible to think of, because when you go back to the command line, when you know what to do, you're able to sometimes when you know what to do, you're able to do lots more than person with a UI knows. But remember, the power of this, one of the powers of this, is that when a UI is developed, it's done specifically to kind of box you in and like, these are the features that we're able to do, and this is what we're going to help you with. But think about natural language, and think about when it's starting to get access to your operating system, and where it's getting smart and contextual, and think of the power of large language models and generative AI. We're opening up a whole can of worms where it's like we're no longer being boxed in or guided exactly what to do. We're having different systems coming together, different services coming together, all connected by your operating system in helping you achieve whatever you need to achieve. Now, the different parts of that are still being built out. Like, there's simple things like email, which I give an example of. Like, email doesn't mean I have to sit down and type. There's so much that go, like any of my emails that I like, just pulling one down, like, you know, maybe replying to someone. That response might be, I need to first watch a video or two, and I need to go read up on their website of what they do. I need to go see the people that they know. I need to formulate how I'm thinking, but understand the context of who I knew before this person, who they know, all these different things need to come into play before I can even just think about how I'm going to answer that email. Now that's easy for me because I first have to do these tasks and then bring them all together. But having an AI that's helping me on that to respond is not just like, okay, help me write this out in a professional way. It's more like, give me a summary of what they're doing. Remember the conversations I've had with them. You were on that phone call and that time that I met that person, and you're bringing those things in, and bringing my LinkedIn and bring their LinkedIn and bring their website in. And all together, we're thinking of, okay, this is how I want to respond back to them. This is an easier case of things that exist, and it's just bringing them back together. But there's so many more services that need to be built out. And I'll see you in the future.